I'm Annette Pasternak, the Stop Skin Picking Coach, and today I have a question from one of the viewers. So this question's from Diana, and she asks, will I ever be able to pick in moderation? And I'm sure maybe you have the same question. So she goes on, I have been able to reduce my skin picking thanks to your help, but I'm still struggling and not fully recovered yet. I'm just wondering, everyone picks their skin from time to time, right? I don't know a single person who will leave a full-blown zit untouched, and especially those I find extremely hard to resist. While I've been able to abstain from picking sebum-filled, healthy pores at least sometimes, there is no question for me whenever I get an actual large pimple. My urge just rises up to level 1000 in an instant, and I will pick it no matter what. But sometimes I don't even feel guilty if I can manage to stop after 1 or 2 zits. It doesn't help the healing process, and popping it does make it worse, but when it happens to 1 or 2 spots on my face, I don't mind as much. The release of the pressure and pain from the pimple is worth more for me. 5 out of 10 picking sessions, I manage to stay aware and stop at any given time. The other 5, I completely lose control and get carried away until my face resembles a battleground. How can I manage this in the future? Telling myself that I will never ever touch a spot or otherwise I'll have failed isn't a realistic option, but every time I engage in picking behavior, no matter how small, it reinforces the belief that picking actually helps my skin and that it's okay to touch it, as well as reinforcing the urge. How do I handle this? I also often can't tell which spots are okay to pick and which aren't. Is skin picking like alcoholism, where one needs to abstain for a lifetime, or is it something that can be executed in moderation? Thanks in advance. Hugs and greetings from Vienna, Diana. Well, thank you, Diana, for this question, and thanks for also letting me read it out loud and for including your permission to use your name and location. So let's break this down because there are actually several questions here and a number of issues to talk about. The first thing, will I ever be able to pick in moderation? I believe you will be. There will be a time where you will be picking in moderation so long as you continue to work at reducing your picking. And we'll talk about some things that need to be done. Okay, so the first question is just wondering, everyone picks their skin from time to time, right? So that is mostly correct. About 70% of people pick their skin somewhat. You know, everyone's gonna pick whether they have a little piece of skin hanging off them. Most people will pick that, and most people will also go after a pimple. She says, I don't know a single person who will leave a full-blown zit untouched. Well, actually I do, and I know several people, maybe who don't leave it every time, but are working at reducing their picking, and that's one of the things that they work on, and it is possible. So, you know, with kind of self-talk around leave it alone, it will be better, it will go away, and having things to do besides picking at it, you know, so things that can feel productive. Covering it up is a great idea. And if I remember, in the description below, I will put some a link to some little circular bandages. They're very small and some are medicated, and you can just, but the best thing really is that they just cover it up so you can't touch it and feel it and be tempted to pick at it. Now, yes, sometimes you're just like, okay, I need to flatten it to go outside to see people. So, you know, I understand that sometimes you'll want to take care of it for cosmetic reasons, but even there, you can attempt to do that in a more mindful way. You know, imagine going to an esthetician, what would they do? You know, they probably like blow steam at it, or you can put a hot compress on it first. I'm actually pointing at my nose because I do have a pimple under there. But so you can, heat it up for a little bit, and then, if you really do want to take care of it, then you can do so carefully. Maybe do a little mindful breathing first, so you are in a calm, focused state, and you're not going to automatically go on to the next one, and keep going and lose control. Diana says she has been able to abstain from picking healthy pores at least sometimes. So that's the first thing that you'll probably notice when you have progress, is that you are able to abstain from picking some things which maybe in the past you were not. So that's really great, to acknowledge, like, okay, I have made some progress on this. Now, she says, there is no question for me whenever I get an actual large pimple. My urge just rises up to level 1000 in an instant, and I will pick it no matter what. Okay, so there's a few things here. First of all, the thoughts, there's a feeling of an urge that's super strong, and a thought that I will pick it no matter what. So I think that the way Diana is looking at this is that she doesn't feel like she has any choice. Okay, and that's not true when you understand that a feeling isn't a fact. It's not just because she feels a huge urge does not mean that picking is automatically going to happen. Okay, so when she feels a huge urge, maybe instead she can tell herself something that's going to be more helpful than I will pick it no matter what. So changing the dialogue in her head, even when there's no pimple there, so right now, Diana, if you're watching this, you can say something like, in the past, I would pick it no matter what. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you will in the future. Okay, so you can decide what to do. You can, if you notice something in the future, you can just immediately cover it up, whether that's with one of these bandages, or maybe some Vaseline or something can be helpful, just to not, be touching it. Sometimes people use toothpaste, like, if you're at home, just anything. And of course there are like medicated, cover-ups. So concealers that have things like sulfur and tea tree oil that would treat the zit, but they also come in a concealer color. So those are some options, just to like have a plan in advance of what do you do when you notice this and you feel a huge urge. You can do something about it other than picking. And I understand the temptation's great, and you're not going to succeed at this right away every time, but you will start to more and more, just like it started for you with being able to resist the healthy pores. So yeah, so sometimes I don't even feel guilty, she says, if I can manage to stop after 1 or 2 zits. Yeah, there's never a reason to feel guilty. However, it doesn't always stop there. Yeah, you don't mind if it happens to 1 or 2 spots, but you say that 5 out of 10 picking sessions, or she says, I managed to stay aware and stop at any given time, but the other 5, so half and half here, right? Half the time she completely loses control. Okay, and it's not predictable. I'm sure it's not predictable when she starts whether she's going to be able to stop or not. Probably in her mind, she always thinks she's going to stop, right? She tells herself, I've just got to fix this one. Okay, so this is the top thought, like all of us have. I've never spoken to a skin picker who does not have this, like, or some variation of just this one, but usually exactly that phrase. Okay, so what you'll need is to remind yourself in that moment, or hear alarm bells if you can, that ding ding ding, watch out, it might not be just this one. It's usually not. You can tell yourself, even if it's a half and half. Like, because you can't predict. So you could say, you don't know that. You have to stay out. You know, you have to stay away. The question is, how can I manage this in the future? This issue of half and half. Half the time I'm okay with it, and half the time I'm not okay with it. So the answer to that really is, you have to have the intention to remind yourself every time that this isn't going to work out long term. So she says, telling myself that I will never ever touch a spot or otherwise I'll have failed isn't a realistic option. That's not what we're saying here though, right? I'm not telling you to tell yourself that never touch your spot or else you failed. Okay? I'm sort of telling you, always do your best not to touch a spot, because it will keep you in this whole cycle of not having control. Okay? There will be times when you do it, but if you are working on continually reminding yourself not to do it, the amount of times that you do it will be less and less. And the next thing she says, but every time I engage in picking behavior, no matter how small, it reinforces the belief that picking actually helps my skin and that it's okay to touch it, as well as reinforcing the urge. How do I handle this? I also often can't tell which spots are okay to pick and which aren't. So this is really showing that there's really no other way about it than to have the intention to not pick anything. You know, that's practice. And you'll see, like, maybe it's easier when you practice with bigger pimples or smaller ones, but the more you practice it, the more times you'll succeed, and the more you'll reduce your picking, and the easier it will get to not go into it and then to get out sooner. So finally, is skin picking like alcoholism, where one needs to abstain for a lifetime, or is it something that can be executed in moderation? Okay, this is really the crux of it. It's a great question. The answer. So, okay, it is in a way like alcoholism in that it is truly addicting. There are ways that it's like alcoholism and ways that it's not. So it's addicting, but it's not inebriating. So the more you get better at being mindful of what you're doing and not doing, you would be able to, if you have a moment of mindlessness and you go into picking, if you're mindful, you can come out. Okay? Alcoholism, once you get drunk or somewhat drunk, you know, intoxication is not a mindful state, period. So that's a difference. Yes, it seems like once you're in sort of you can get in a skin picking trance as well, where it's extremely hard to be mindful, but you can come back to a mindful state. But really, what this is showing, even because there's a trance kind of thing that happens where you just get drawn into it, similarly to being intoxicated maybe, then that's showing again the real control point is at the beginning, is whether you get that first one or not. So that's where it just really is most impactful and most important to start from not going into it. But people get way better at stopping sooner too. They just get more mindful and have more helpful thoughts, as opposed to, because at some point, you know, while you're picking, you're probably having some kind of thought about the fact that you're picking. For very many people, it's like, I shouldn't be picking. I can't believe I'm doing this again. Oh, you know, some kind of stuck thought. But when you train yourself to have a different thought, a thought like step away, like Diana, step away from the mirror. Diana, no, you know, like walk away, or, you know, take your hand away, something like that. You know, not to be mean to yourself, but just to kind of make it very clear, like a, you know, a firm statement, get yourself away. So people do tend to get more moderate, I think is what I was trying to say, that, you know, you do get better at stopping once you've started, but you also get better at not starting. Okay? And I think that you can work on both of those things, and that will really help you. Now, as far as picking in moderation goes, you could probably say that I pick in moderation. I don't pick very much, but I do pick a little. But I think to get to that place of moderation, you have to do a lot of work. It is where most people end up, is picking in moderation, you know, after treatment or after going through coaching. So I hope that was helpful. If you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments, or you can feel free to contact me through my website, stopskinpickingcoach.com. Everybody can reduce their skin picking to a point where it is moderate or it doesn't affect your life anymore, and you feel a freedom from it. So keep working at it, Diana, and you too. And if you would like some help, feel free to find me at my website, stopskinpickingcoach.com. I offer one-on-one and small group coaching. Lots of great videos coming up, so subscribe if you're not already. Please give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful, and I'll see you soon.